Good morning, afternoon, evening. Today is December 10th here in the United States, and you have joined the Kubeflow community meeting on this Tuesday. We do have a couple announcements before we start. One is that this call is being recorded, and it is governed by the CNCF Code of Conduct. And what I'd like to do is just review some of those conducts before we get going. So one is really would like folks to think about demonstrating empathy and kindness towards other members, and to be respectful of different opinions, viewpoints, and experiences, and gracefully accepting constructive feedback. And then also accepting responsibility and apologizing to those affected by our mistakes and learning from our experiences, and then focusing on is not just best for us as individuals or the companies that we represent, but for the overall community. And finally, we would like this to be an inclusive and welcoming community. So with that, I'd like to get started. Again, it's December 12th. We're going to go on our normal agenda, which we have outlined here. And we usually start with the release update. And I believe we have Julius here from the release team to help us walk through the status and any open items. Julius?
Yeah, to be honest, we are really good on track. And we got status updates from all working group liaisons. I think most working groups are within the expected status. And I think one discussion point was that which Kubernetes versions to test on, and some working groups have already started with testing 129 to 132 or so. I think that's the major change. But maybe Valentina, do you have something to add?
No, we updated the issue with all comments. I think the last one was from the pipelines who they were placing a PR and start testing and kind of see what happens. But then I think all the other groups were already testing all the versions. So I don't know, Andre, do you have any comments on this? Is there something you want to highlight? But Albert was was amazing communicating this, so just waiting to see how that goes in regards of the different versions.
Andre, you're still muted if you want to say something.
This looks good.
Yeah.
So any questions on the status of 1.10?
Given that the release is on, I think, March 31st or so, we really have a lot of time, to be honest.
We put it on the last day of the month. Okay, no chance we'll slip that. You guys gonna hold that date, right? Don't put it on the very last day of the month. All right, we'll see what happens. Hey, so on that question, from a testing standpoint, I think there was some requests about, hey, do we have any type of test plan or something that we can start from? Did anybody make any progress on finding any testing or anything that might help people, or is there any update on that?
Josh, I reached out to the contact you gave me. I'm still waiting on that. Hasn't heard back yet.
Okay. Great. All right. Well, let's keep going. That's a great update. Always like to look like we're on track. Now, what do we have? One more meeting or before the holiday break? Is that right? Of the release team?
Probably Ricardo can answer that. But yes, I expect that we skip some meetings over the holidays.
Right. So I guess the piece is, we want to tie everything down before the break so we can come back and hit it good. Um, okay, good, good. All right. Fantastic. All right, Amber, is it okay if we move on from there, Julius, or is that 1.10? So are we good?
Yeah, from my side, it's fine if no one has to add something.
Okay, let's move on to KFC election update.
So the nominations phase has ended. We are now in the testimonial phase. I sent a note out to Kubeflow discuss, and I'll put it on our socials this afternoon. If you're a member of the community and you want to give a testimonial for one of the 3 people that have confirmed and are running for the 2 seats, please pop over there and add a comment to their issues. Don't add it to the main issue, add it to the individual issues. So and Josh, I'll put the links in here so you can just approve them here in a minute. So everything's moving right along. So now we'll start reaching out to those that we don't have email addresses for and gathering the remaining emails so we can make sure everybody gets their voter key in a timely manner. The testimonial phase will be open for 2 weeks. So the 22nd, I believe, is when it ends.
All righty. Any questions on the testimonial phase of the KFC elections?
What's the actual date of the elections, Emma?
It starts on the 23rd.
Cool.
And goes for 3 weeks.
I assume someone means December, not November.
Yeah, Josh, I was going to tell you, change that to December. Yep. And voting will be open for 3 weeks.
All right. Any questions on the elections? Okay, good. Everything is out in the open. We're moving forward. All right, let's talk about KubeCon and the Kubeflow Summit. Again, this is what London,
April 1st. It's in London, April 1st through the 4th.
April 1st to 4. And when is the summit exactly?
On the 1st. I don't know the exact time. We get half a day. The CFP has closed for that, and now the committee is now reviewing all the submissions.
Okay, so this is closed and
But
review.
by
Okay.
the way, Amber, do you know when the evaluation is done and when we know whether the talk is accepted?
I think it's in the, I'll have to check, but I think it's within the next 2 weeks or so. But I'll double check and add the timeline. It may be a little longer. But I'll add it to the to our notes after the call. The other thing is we did put in for a kiosk or a project booth in the pavilion. We'll probably get it, and it'll probably be in the morning time. And as part of outreach, I'll be reaching out to folks to see who can volunteer to be in the booth. We'd like to have 2 people in that booth at all times. So if you're going to be in London and you can help staff a Kubeflow booth in the morning time frame, that would be great, because we don't get it for the whole day. There's too many projects for one project to have a booth in the project kiosk all day. So one project gets it in the morning and the other project gets it in the afternoon. So that's why we only need people in the mornings for that. I've also talked with, so we can use CNCF and things like that in our tagline. I'm working with the CNCF and their community team to get some better taglines. I'll Katie and George have sent me some suggestions. I will share those and let folks kind of vote and see which way we're leaning. So I'll put something out before the end of the week on that, so we can get an idea of what people like and what they don't like. We're looking at having some coins created, some t-shirts. And so I also reached out to the CNCF to see how people could sponsor the swag without necessarily sponsoring the event, so that I wouldn't pay for everything out of pocket. And so they're checking with the accounting department to see how people can contribute and get credit. Like, say somebody wants to spend, oh, here's $1,000 towards swag, whatever, how you can get credit for that, or here's 5,000, whatever, that you or your organization could contribute and still get credit for sponsoring the project, without having to spend, 10,000 plus for an event. So working on that, and Katie said most likely it'll be after the first of the year before she gets me an answer. But again, we are working on how people can get credit, or how people or organizations can get credit for sponsoring the project without necessarily sponsoring an event. So as soon as I have more information on that, I will let everybody know.
That's great news. I think that's always cool. Have a nice set of swag available. And okay. Any questions on KubeCon, Kubeflow Summit? Do we have any? I know this is hard. Do we have any strategic goals or metrics that will let us understand or report on success at these events? Number of people talked to, number of sessions given, I don't know, number of views of the recordings.
We can get those. I'll work with the community team over at the CNCF to figure out those numbers. And then, it's kind of apples and oranges when we have a full day event and then we're comparing it to a combined event and then comparing it to a half day event. But I'll see what we can glean, because we also have our numbers from Dallas and we have our numbers from, California and that sort of stuff. So I can go back as far at 2 years ago and go forward and see, how we've done. We can also track the number of sessions at KubeCon that related to Kubeflow. So we can put that together. Again, it'll probably be after the holidays before we could report on that, but we can definitely get that after the first of the year and then set some goals for KubeCon and Kubeflow Summit. The other thing that we're working on is a virtual summit. They're going to let for May. They'll get back to me after the first of the year on that as well. And that summit, that virtual summit, will be for us to basically have a sprint to work on internal things, like report on the projects, go over any governance issues, go over any anything that we're working on that is administration and orchestration of the project. That's what that virtual summit will be used for. So I've asked for May, for a Wednesday in May, and they're going to get back to us on how we can do that, because it's a little bit outside the scope that they normally do. So as soon as I have more information on that, I'll report back for that as well.
So I guess here's kind of a view, probably not the most correct, but the best I can do. Let's just say that we've been getting tens or hundreds of people, depending whether it's in person or online, to come to our talks and events. So if we strategically look at, like, where do we end up over the next 3 years, and how do we grow the community or keep the community healthy? do we need to grow it significantly larger, like exponentially to instead of, tens and hundreds to hundreds and thousands of people? Or are we good at the size that we're at?
Well, when we get to the community outreach and strategic plan, one of the things I was going to look at is where we are today, and then how do we grow our communications, how do we grow our collaboration, and then that eventually leads to contribution. So where we're at on all of that, and see what our growth has been over the last 3 years, and then set a goal going forward. Like we're gonna have to look back to look forward. So I was gonna see those numbers and then put something out. I don't think we need tens of thousands yet. We're not there. We don't have the infrastructure to support that. But if we grow, if we grow at a steady rate, and not only do we grow the community at a steady rate, but we grow leadership as we grow our community, then we can handle it. And I think, Josh, that would be best answered after we get some numbers and can look to see what growth has been like over the last 3 to 4 years. And then actually have a plan and set some KPIs basically for our growth and our outreach. Could be wrong. Love to hear what other people think.
Yeah, but I think also if we can highlight all the user stories, I see
Yep.
the companies who are actually using production. I think we somehow lost the channel to reach out to them and then create user stories and maybe like blog it out, right? If we can do
Yep,
that, I think.
Yep. And when we get down to the outreach, I'll go over some of that as well.
Yeah, I think on this topic, I think we should establish user group in January and user advisory group, at least like initial. So by KubeCon, we might have some interviews with them live. I think that would be really nice if we can do something like this.
So Josh, do you want to go on to the strategic plan?
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And just to put a finer point on this, I mean, Milos from PepsiCo was asking yesterday in the model registry meeting about use cases and saying that it would really help their team for us to have more use cases when it comes to them being able to sell it internally.
Yes. And so part of the plan that we'll see that I'll share for everybody to comment on, I'll share it first in a Google Doc before we add it to a repo, is somebody to take lead on as we look at our community strategy and we look at our outreach, somebody to take lead, or somebody's, maybe 2 people, to be, to say, okay, we're gonna run lead on the user story pieces, and then somebody else can run lead on the stories for the like working groups and things like that. Like we should have a call to action every week, and we should be highlighting one area of the project every week. We should be highlighting our user stories and our distributions. So the idea, so those who are listening, if you feel like you can help create content and help users put together their stories, we'll need you. If you think that you could be, say, the reporter for the working groups and working with the working groups to get out, a message, like maybe one week, like we do notebooks, the next week we might do manifest, whatever it happens to be, and we tell those stories. And then, but from that, hopefully by the end of first quarter, we now have regular content where we could create a newsletter from that. And so everything builds on top of it. And I'll share this out with everybody to review over the holidays, and I'll put a poll up so we can start having meetings after we come back after the first of the year. But all of those, and then one of the things that we keep getting asked about is who's using Kubeflow. So we need a place where people can just add their company name to a list. So we have a list of logos, and we have a list of folks who have self-identified as users of Kubeflow. Deloitte wants to add their stuff. I talked to them at KubeCon. I'm sure PepsiCo, CERN, others would self-identify and add. So we'll need somebody to kind of help with that. So I'm breaking out all the areas where people have the potential to actually contribute and help with outreach, and we can keep it going because there's going to be lots of different areas. And I think that will help the project overall. And as we start identifying those and getting content out, again, content raises awareness. Awareness drives engagement or collaboration, and that engagement and collaboration drives contribution. So in following the awareness, engagement, contribution process, we should be able to grow it at a rate which we can handle, not like 10,000 people at once where we can't handle it. So as we grow that, then we should be able to grow leadership across the organization too. And this will give others the ability to have contributions. And when the next voting comes up and all of that, they can vote, they can run, they can do all that. So I'll put this out so everybody can review it between now and the first of the year, add your comments, and then people can say, okay, I can help with this piece of it. Somebody else can help with another piece of it. And that gives the ability for many more people to have a lane of contribution that doesn't necessarily include code. So taking all of that into account. And I think we'll be in a good spot at the beginning of the year for growth across the board, and steady growth where we won't have to let something go by the wayside because we don't have people. I hope that makes sense to everybody.
It does. I think that the outreach team needs to put a schedule together, start having meetings and keeping notes and.
Yep, that'll happen in January. Yep. So.
All right, we should try to get that to be scheduled in January. Okay.
Yep.
I think it sounds great. I really love those ideas and would love to contribute. So yeah, I will keep. I will wait for.
You are on my list to reach out to, Valentina.
Perfect.
You're one of the top 3 people I will be contacting.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right, let's keep going. We have a lot of topics, if that's okay. Anything else, Amber?
Nope.
All right, Matthew, important prow configs.
Yeah, we've still got this repo which is controlled by Google that needs to be up. I can't approve pull requests in here, so if someone from Google could look at this, please. It will allow every member of the org to use the /retitle command, even if you don't have write access on the repo. It will also enable the setting in Prowl which causes OK to test to trigger GitHub Actions, which is good because of you need write access normally to do that. And yeah, so if you can look at the diff if you want, but it's not really that big, but it's just these 2 things. Yeah, so it just says add the retitle plugin and do that. Anyway, so if someone who understands Prowl from Google could take a quick look at that or tag someone at Google, ping them internally, that'd be great. If you're wondering why Google's involved, it's because they host the Prowl.
Is there anybody from Google around?
Is Google in the room with us? Okay, maybe not. I'll ping someone.
We'll try to get that going. All right, all right, let's see here. Website updates, Valentina. Only
Yes.
79 PRs. All right. Anyway,
those were so great news. Of the 79, we already closed a lot of them. So right now we only have 33 PRs open. Most of the PRs were closed some of them were merged, but others were closed due to the fix was already in place or the content was not longer valid. Right now, I'm waiting on around 15 PRs to get review approved or updated by the community. So we just want to give some time for people to make the necessary updates. So if you receive any comments on your PR or you have a PR, it's been for a while, please make sure to update it or add some comments on it. But I feel pretty good, especially reaching out almost holidays. So you were asking Josh how we can make it 50, reduced by 50%. So that goal was achieved. So thank you everyone who contributed, reviewed it, and helped close those PRs. So yeah, great news. We will keep it moving.
Wow, that's a win. I think we all need to give some golf clap to Valentina. 79 down to how many? 30 something?
33 only open. Yeah.
Well, I think you've set a very high bar for the community to
Yeah, thank you. It was a team effort.
Right. Okay. Okay. I think that's really cool. What else do you need here? I mean, if we can get it down to one page, that's just incredible, but even 30, whatever, 33, 34. What else do you need from the community to get this kind of cleaned up further? Is it just continued people responding or?
Yeah, respond to the comments if you receive a comment on your PR, or if you have PRs that you created for, that been there for a year or longer. Please review them and ensure that, it's been followed. Maybe you need a review, maybe the content is not longer valid. But yeah, and I think this will be like a good habit as well, like from time to time to people, to review their PRs and. But yeah, so just keep an eye on it. Reach out if you need any help, and that's all.
Okay, good deal. Good deal. Fantastic work.
Yeah, thank you.
It's something we desperately have needed. Okay, so I put this on here, model registry update. I was on the call yesterday, kind of half listening, but I should have listened more intently. Is there anybody from the model registry team or anybody that attended that call that could give a good status of where the model registry is?
Yes, I'm on the call. Sorry, I was driving. We had yesterday our call of the model registry, and the most important part, right, is user interface. Currently, everything is in green. We hope that it will stay that way. And we're thinking about having practically some kind of testimonial to have the end user to test it. I'm working on that practically to have some feedback coming from my team in the PepsiCo. And that's it. So far, so good. I think it's going to be very useful. Like this user interface from all the registries is something really big, in my opinion.
This is great news. Once again, the model registry team has been tremendous in their efforts to proactively deliver. The user interface, I think, is that kind of embodiment. And I agree with you, Milosh, that being able to see it, the UI, although maybe not the highest value for a lot of use cases, is just something that I think is going to draw more users into the model registry. So let me ask you this. As you've looked at the UI development, and I know there's a lot of challenges with trying to keep things consistent, but if there were a few things that you think the UI is going to deliver to you to add value to your teams, like what is it? It's being able to see something that is going to save you a lot of time. Any way that you can verbalize that, I'm putting you on the spot, I know, but is there something that you say, once I have the UI, it's going to make our lives easier because, what's the because?
Because, for example, current use case in my organization is that, okay, we use Kubeflow, let's say pipelines, and then we store like models to model registry from Azure, which is totally different. You have to log in to some site, right, from Azure to go there. It's not very intuitive. If you want to have like separated models across the users and teams, you have to pay additionally, etc. So having everything in the Kubeflow dashboard, like using this interface in there, I think it's a really, really big win, and it will be, I think, very easy to convince like management to switch. So that's something I'm very excited about.
So easier access to the data, but let me push on that. Just one more question. If there were some particular data that you're trying to see that will be most valuable to you, what is that? What is the data that you're trying to get to? Is it just on the models themselves, the status, a field? What is it? Anything? I mean, I'm just trying to figure out why, what.
Well, probably like the most important thing. Now it's just like the preference, like, and how different team operates and from particular data scientists. But I think what is important for them is to be able to like quickly see these tags, like example, some kind of accuracy, some metrics, some numbers, because typically you'll have a number of, for example, imagine I have hyperparameter tuning. You're maybe saving a lot of different models, and then you want to decide which one to use. Sometimes you can say, okay, just have particular value and the lowest, I don't know, error, this is the best. But sometimes this use case can be a little bit different. You need to take some other numbers into consideration. So having access like quickly to the user interface to have all these things, it's very useful. I think having all these things the same place, and also to have that integrated with Kubeflow pipelines, that's pretty awesome, because so far we're doing it like everything manually, and like and then I see that people are like kind of reluctant to even use model registry because of that, which is really a bad thing. So I think this is a big win for Kubeflow.
I think in the end, many users expect something similar to MLflow, and I know distributions companies and users that even integrate MLflow into Kubeflow for that reason. And having something directly in our project, such as model registry within user interface, is just useful in practice. People don't have to rely on external tools anymore.
Agree 100%. I just want to add that as well. I'm saying specifically in the deployment side as well, like you can do then all the version canary rollouts and other stuff, because Kubeflow, once it has the model registry, it becomes really easy for someone to point to multiple versions and do all of the fancy rollouts, etc. So the Kubeflow itself has a very strong story right now.
There is one big thing missing from the current model registry proposal, though, which is metadata tracking. Like, there isn't, in the same way that MLflow's primary value to a lot of people is the ability to integrate with PyTorch training runs, automatically track them, and store that information. And then once you've got candidate runs, then promote them into the model registry as registered artifacts. But yeah. So I wouldn't expect it to be currently a serious competitor to MLflow until that feature is there.
Yeah, so right now, you can, view versions of models and stuff, Josh. So that's, one immediate, benefit you see, as models develop and you create different versions, you can see that. We also have model things like, inference services and stuff. So if you tie it to a specific deployment of a model version, you can see that relationship. So you can find out where the deployments of your versions are. And as was mentioned earlier, we are also planning on adding support for experiments and runs tracking, so that you can actually see where the artifacts came from, so that you have a full lineage of things. In the future, we can also add things like links to hyperparameters for specific model versions and so on, so that you can start digging deeper into it and actually do things like performance analysis and watch the progress of the model over its lifetime.
Yeah, because I think We might be
But
stronger
all
on
of
the.
these things, yeah, sorry, I forgot to mention, but all of these things are going to require a lot of heavy UI work, right? I mean, we'll have APIs in the backend, but it's not really going to give you all the benefits that all these things features will require without a UI.
I mean, the UI is important, but there's also just the Python SDK integration with training libraries. Because I think MLflow does a really good job of the parameter tracking, training run tracking, but does a very bad job of model versioning. But we might be much better on the model versioning side, but worse on the parameter training side, and just tracking and model training run side, because it's all about visual.
Right.
That's how it started, right? About visualizing the performance of training runs.
Yeah, so on that end, right now, we have our own Python client SDK, and we haven't really, thought about like integrating it into other SDKs and so on. Maybe we will, maybe start with an option where you have two SDKs that you can use, right? The training SDK to do the actual training, and then the model registry SDK to push the information, the metadata into model registry. But yeah, maybe in the future, we can integrate things if there's interest in integrating with Kubeflow model registry.
Isn't it up to the user to define what to track and where to track in the training workflow? Like, I didn't understand on integrating with the training SDK.
Right. So MLflow, for example, is really good at wrapping other toolkits, right? So that all that information, that metadata, gets pushed automatically under the wrapper API calls. You know what I mean? So like start some toolkit test run, and it'll automatically push the metadata, right? That's what I was talking about.
I think there's just an important thing to understand is that there's two different kinds of artifacts. There's models, which are things that you as a company of organization have decided I want to track and version and then deploy, like they're deployable artifacts. And then there's training runs, which are things which could be wrapped into a deployment, but are just raw models. You know what I mean? They're like, yeah. So they're just foundationally different types of artifacts.
Yeah. So the training metadata versus the published final result.
Like think about it, the training metadata might be a PyTorch, checkpoint of model weights, whereas a deployment versioned artifact might be a Docker file or something.
Right.
I have one question regarding the ML metadata rewrite within model registry. I think this was planned for stage 2 or so. Do you have any news regarding that? Because right now does not support hard multi-tenancy, also for the KFP metadata stored there.
Yeah, we are internally reviewing that right now, but we don't have anything concrete to release.
Cool.
Yeah, that's all from my side. Thank you.
Yeah, maybe I can on those 2 points. I can probably put in a blurb here. One feature we were at least put it on the future list, or at least to consider as part of the community, is how about supporting a MLflow's API itself, so that we can use their Python libraries as is, so that we can flow that one into it. So that still is debatable. I mean, if that is an important feature we like to capture, and we like that libraries, that may be one way to go about it, right?
If we go that way, I'd suggest we try and work with Databricks to try and create a standard kind of tracking system so that everyone builds a plugin for their various AI library rather than everyone building these integrations all at the same time.
It seems like we've been tracking one issue there, Matthew. On some folks have been advocating them to standardize their API layer, but it's a 2-year or 2.5. I mean, probably 2-year. It was a 2-year PR. I think 6 months ago. It may be a little longer now. That's no movement on that one. So yeah, it's a little difficult. Seems like there, but yeah,
That
I would
could
be
like they didn't have any serious competition until we hopefully come along. So
yeah.
that might change because it helps movement within the projects as well. Both
Right.
to and away. But again, it's more about this model training part, not about the versioning of models. That's kind of very specific to your deployment. But yeah.
Right. I mean, the part is, we would need to, if at all we bring it in that one, right? If we use Python libraries, then we need to see how we can move that data back into the ML metadata model inside in the backend. That's the complicated part, and that's kind of providing a different. I mean, then only our UI, whatever the KFP pipelines UI, that will work. Otherwise, it will fall down. On the ML data rewrite itself, it's initially we thought it is a simpler project, but at least we find that it does require a lot of effort. Right now, we didn't have the bandwidth to take upon that. That's how so we're still investigating on there as to how we do that. But right now we have not we don't have any concrete plans yet because the amount of work it might need, and it's all passive work, right? This is not if at all we are replacing one-to-one, it's not a big advantage we are going to get from unless we are going to refactor the whole thing out. In that case, I mean, we don't mind putting in a different, I would be more inclined to rewrite into something different, but then that means that KFP is going to break. That we don't want to.
Yeah, and we wouldn't be able to
introduce
drop
that.
it until we maybe release V3 of KFP even, like because it would be a breaking migration for people.
Right, exactly. So these are all the problems there. I mean, the another option we are trying to think through is, if there is a way we could integrate these two systems separately, and so that we can advance the model registry progress much more faster than what it is right now. So that MLMD has been a little bit not being able to get big features in there is been a problematic so far. So if we break chain, that may be another way we could go a little faster. Then we need to come back in and see how we can take the KFP along with us.
And I think maybe Ramesh, we can discuss this in a model registry core, but I think maybe we can start with something simple. And first of all, integrate with train jobs and maybe tune jobs if you're going to create them in the future. And I feel that the MLMD and ML metadata play the crucial role for context tracking across all those ML workloads, right? But then I think I think the question we need to define the charter. What is the goal of this metadata store across all this ML AI lifecycle? So yes, because I think as Matthew said, we need to have a component within the Kubeflow ecosystem which can store all those metrics around different parts of your ML workloads, right? Today we just don't have this, right? So I feel, from my perspective, I feel like model registry should be transitioned into more kind of useful tool across all those,
Right.
Kubeflow different tooling, right?
One thing that's been suggested to us is that also Databricks also supports, and they recently contributed back into LF organization, is something called Unity Catalog. That's something we have not investigated yet, but that's at least personally I'm very much interested in digging that one a little bit through, since that one is a more open governance based project, right? So I see if there are any if that is a way we can
Yeah, basically some sort of distributed meta store across all those Kubeflow components, right?
exactly.
And it could be natively integrated. Yep.
Yeah, if that can satisfy our needs, then that may be a good switch over and see how we can bring everybody together there.
All right. Well, that was a good conversation on the model registry. Hopefully helps the team. I think we have a couple other topics maybe to discuss, if that's okay. Anything else before we move on model registry? Any last thoughts? When's the next model registry meeting? It's in 2 weeks, right? Two Mondays from yesterday,
23rd.
23rd. So there will be one on the 23rd with Santa Claus. Fantastic.
Yes, sir.
All right. Proposal from Andre. Rename a namespace.
Yeah, so I mean, just quickly, I was looking for almost all of other, CNCF projects, and majority of them using system namespace. I don't really, I mean, from my perspective, I think we should do the same, but this is just a proposal. Any kind of strong opposite from the community on this front, from a system-based component?
It's just like making a breaking change for no reason is usually not a good idea.
I don't feel it is no. I mean, from my perspective, it's kind of
purely-
make.
It's an OCD reason. It's not really like a, you know.
Yeah,
I
so
think it
because I mean,
helps some.
yeah, go Judith.
I think it helps a bit because especially if you have many users, you refer to Kubeflow namespace, and having the separation, I think, yes, it's a change and it's somewhat breaking up, but I still support it because I think it makes sense to rename it for clarity.
If we're gonna do anything, it's kind of equivalent to just supporting having any namespace work. Because right now most of the projects have some hard-coded connection to Kubeflow as the namespace.
Yeah, and I think like the question is like, can we as a community to propose to, delegate those tasks to the working group to support any arbitrary namespace, right?
Well, it has to have a
Because
motivation, right? Like, why would
the
someone...
motivation is make it much easier for Earthers and new, adopters to understand that this is the system components, right? And be consistent with other, CNCF
They're kind of
based
not
projects.
system components, though. Often they are the end user components that are in there.
No, they're not in Kubeflow system namespace.
Yeah, I understand. What I'm saying is they are like some of them are system components, kind of like the profile controller and stuff. But like what I'm saying is it might make more sense to split it up even more if we're going to split them up.
Yeah, anyway, so I will create an issue. I hope manifest working group. I think it's kind of, from my perspective, it's a manifest working group decision because they kind of serving those manifests for distributions and end users. And maybe we can provide the comments there on this working issue.
The biggest problem that I see is that if people want to be able to run older versions of components, they probably won't work in other namespaces. So if you want like split versions with pipelines v1, let's say, and v2 or things, or anything. And also, it's just like it's a lot of work. Like I'm not against supporting arbitrary namespaces, but if we're going to be reshuffling namespaces, we should just discuss what should actually be in this new system namespace, because some of it is clearly, Kubeflow pipelines has a lot of things. Maybe they should all be in the same namespace, but not the same as notebooks or things like that.
So again, from my perspective, the manifest working group is responsible to stitching all those components together because every component can be deployed standalone, and they can decide what kind of orchestration they want to use. But in the manifest, basically Kubeflow platform, right, piece, there we can make a decision, right? Which is kind of like the responsibility of the platform. We don't have platform working group, but basically manifest working group leads.
But that is the other problem, right? The manifest working group doesn't speak for the distributions, and the distributions might not like this either. So
Let the distributions comment on that effort, I think. Let's create the issue,
Yeah.
let them comment, and there are different orthogonal things. We could just rename it to Kubeflow minus system with, I think, a rather small amount of effort. With a larger amount of effort, we could make it even flexible to be an arbitrary namespace. And then as a third stage, yes, we can consider splitting it up even further. All of these options, and I think we just should gather some feedback on them.
All right. Do we have a plan kind of outlined on that?
like my thought process is we should be spending cycles on things that deliver new features and value to the end user or distributions. And this could, depending on how it's framed, but just there's so many places that you wouldn't expect that are going to have problems with this. Like the Istio services have they have hard-coded strings all over it that have to include the namespace in it, for saying where is the service account that's allowed to access the gateway and things like that. And it's just really painful to do because we're not templating the whole thing. If you want to change it, I mean. I understand what you're saying. I'm just, it could make it impossible to upgrade for some people.
Well, let's put the proposal out there, get some discussion. Couple other topics we want to touch on. Anything else on this namespace? Are we good to move on? We've got a plan though, right? We're going to create an issue and discuss it. CNCF AI Playground. Andre, I don't know if I should be sharing this document, but I put it there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's fine. Let me quickly talk about it. So we gave a presentation 2 weeks ago about the Kubeflow 2024 updates to the CNCF working API. I think this was quite successful. We got a lot of good feedback from the community. So the one thing that kind of reached out to us is to ask if we want to participate to this AI playground, especially on our initiatives around, LLM blueprints for fine tuning. I think this could be a good way for folks to actually see how Kubernetes can be leveraged for LLMs. So the rough idea is to, they're going to give us the resources. We're going to deploy notebooks there. In a notebook, they basically can, experiment with our blueprints. So they can quickly fine tune all their favorite LLM, from Hugging Face, whether it's Llama, Mistral, or Gem, or any other LLMs that we support as a community. So there are still kind of a lot of uncertainty in terms of who will be responsible to basically kind of manage service that's CNCF is trying to offer. And it's kind of driven by OPA. I don't know if you're aware of this kind of Intel initiative around, I think it's called Open Source for Enterprise CI, if I remember correctly. But basically they kind of like suggesting to give resources to create those managed services for folks to see how Kubernetes can be useful, not Kubernetes, but cloud native tools could be useful for AI and ML workloads. So I guess like Kubeflow should play a key role there, this initiative. But it's more about here who want to, volunteer to participate in those discussions and how we can make a small steps so folks can experiment. Because also we got a lot of I haven't been able to attend the last KubeCon, but I know we got the feedback from users that want to experiment live with Kubeflow components on the stand. Basically, when they're in a booth, they can, try to run some LLMs. And I think we just can make it possible with those, offered infrastructure that CNCF could give us.
And
Any
so,
questions?
yes.
Go ahead, John.
So currently I'm attending KubeCon India. I'm actually there, and I talked to Rajesh regarding that, and yeah, he was in line with that, and he discussed to have a different meeting if we can actually do that. Just to add, so I'm having a talk tomorrow, and then we are trying to add a very kind of like a beginner demo for Kubeflow, specifically a kind of a llama fine tuning based on a training operator and serving to show how we can stitch everything together and using Kubeflow pipeline. So I think once I can share that as well, after kind of like getting a rough draft of it, and then probably we can reuse that. We'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think eventually we want to support more blueprints within, Kubeflow training and train jobs. And I think we could think about how we can construct those notebooks in a way that people can quickly experiment, because the runtime and blueprint idea can actually give us a way to just, give folks a way to quickly try this out, right? Without any kind of this infrastructure complexity and understanding how to configure them, because everything has been pre-created for them, right?
There is
The only
something.
Go ahead.
There is something to be said that like Kubeflow's purpose, at least as a platform, is to solve those. Like, if you want to use a managed service, then you should use a managed service, right? Like, if you want to host stuff yourself, then that's the reason you use Kubeflow to some extent.
I think the goal is to not say why Kubeflow is powerful as a managed service, but show why cloud native tools are useful for ML and AI, right? And the power of this, we show how you can leverage actually Kubeflow for MLOps, right?
Or you really mean Kubernetes for MLOps?
No, Kubeflow, right? Because we, as the community on the training side, we're creating those blueprints, right? We giving you the blueprints to fine tune all those LLMs so you can configure like, the parameters that you want to modify for your distributed workloads. It's not easy for data scientists to do so without understanding of, Kubernetes complexity. Like you cannot just come to the, you cannot just deploy Kubernetes and, fine tune Llama.
No, of course not.
Because it's not easy, right? And we kind of are providing you a template way of how you can leverage those cloud native tools for fine tuning, right?
Like the only thing I caution anyone who working on this is that like the real world is very, very, very messy, and ML AI infrastructure might as well be the new word for cloud infrastructure for a lot of companies. And having like, there is no right answer is what I'm trying to say for how to build your own platform.
No, the right answer from our perspective, like it's to use Kubeflow tools, right?
Sure.
Use training operator, use K-serve, use pipelines, right? Use notebooks from our ecosystem because we know how to do ML at scale. Because we've been doing this since 2017 compared to all other folks who were just getting started, right?
And this is just my opinion, but I think like I hear you, Matt, where I think like part of like having some flexibility, say like, hey, like the real world's messy and certain applications are messy. Like I get that. I empathize, and I think that kind of makes sense. But I do think that we want to give people an opinionated case, and where people want to customize, of course, they're going to customize, but they should feel confident going with like Kubeflow as like, hey, look, this is kind of the right open source platform for us. I don't think that's a controversial take, right?
I still think the most
exactly.
important thing to, in the same way that Kubernetes might be everyone agrees that's a great platform for most people. Part of what makes Kubernetes work is that many people are contributing to it. And the reason they're contributing to it is because there's many different ways of making money in the Kubeflow ecosystem. Same way that there is in Linux, same way that there is in and hopefully in Kubeflow. Right? There's a reason why we've got multiple vendors represented here. So whatever we do, it does need to respect or reflect the fact that people contribute to projects because they because they're the standard, and that's great, and they're open source, but also because they want to get something out of it, and we shouldn't try and compete with that, if that's what I'm saying.
Oh yeah, that I 100% agree with that. Yeah, I think like that's all true from a healthy ecosystem, right? Yeah.
Like if there was an official Kubernetes distribution, Kubernetes would die because no one would make money from it.
Those, yeah. Go, John.
Matthew, so here the idea is not to get one distribution over the other, right? And that's not the idea. I'm saying, for example, someone who is finding it hard to figure out what use cases that Kubeflow can do, or what's the power of Kubeflow, we have to give a easy way for them to experience that, right? I'm saying that's purely from a use case perspective. Like think a data scientist, or they have some use case with them. What can it do? Can we have a easy answer, or can they experience in a much more easier way than figuring out how to install it, and then they get into issues with some versioning, etc., right? I'm saying that we are just trying to make that path easiar.
You're going to run into a almost impossible problem though, which is that not even Kubernetes has solved this, and not only is that like a warning sign, it's that we actually depend on Kubernetes, right?
No, I think the goal is
Go ahead, Andrew.
The goal is to just show the power of Kubeflow and Kubernetes for ML, because many people still use Slurm. And this is fine, right? Like the goal of this to show that we're also capable to address those use cases using the Kubeflow ecosystem of tools, right? Like because I think like not many, but some people think that they don't understand what is the usefulness of Kubeflow ecosystem, right? And we kind of like show them, you can already actually do a lot of kind of large scale ML within our tools, right? And again, this is not like, and this is not the distribution as Jonah mentioned. This is just a playground, right? So I come to the booth, or I come to the, like to the, ingress, like, public URL, and I have in my notebook, and this notebook actually show how we can quickly fine tune the latest llama, right? And that's it, right? And maybe just get some evals, right? Back to my notebook.
In other words, we are,
Yeah.
I think our primary target should be data scientists than an infrastructure guy.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So only from
Or ML
data.
engineers, right?
But why would someone contribute to this? Like that would cost hundreds of millions of dollars to run in an open source way, if not more. Like Hugging Face, I don't know about their financials, but I imagine it's mostly based off VC funding.
I think like many folks actually get benefits from this because we've been using the, like with this Oracle GPUs or other GPUs. So those distributions can say that you can, fine tune LLMs using our infrastructure. And at the same time, community benefit because our tools actually show the power of them, right? So we can actually also speak with distributions who actually can offer those kind of managed service for folks to play around. And I understand there will be some kind of discussions around who actually could do these tasks, but I can see, like pros for both of the parties, right? For the community and for distributions, also want to show the power of their, cloud infrastructure.
Like I agree with the goal, which is that I talk to people all the time that say, I've got thousands of Slurm jobs running on thousands of servers. Kubernetes seems like the future, but yet it's difficult to migrate. I don't even know how it works. And having a vision of what it looks like publicly does make sense because no one's really talking about how they use really big scale Kubeflow deployments publicly. But I do just like, I don't know, it's a thing that we have to be careful, right? To make sure that the ecosystem remains sustainable for everyone who already uses it. I mean, but yes, like, yeah.
Yeah, so let me know if I know over time. So, but let me know if you want to get involved. I can see that we can also kind of invite some distributions who actually want to willing to spend their resources on this, because again, as I mentioned, it could be a win for both parties. And I think maybe in addition to OPA, we can maybe invite some other folks who actually want to donate those resources for those playgrounds for the end users. But we can have a follow up on this.
Okay, so as we mentioned, we're over time. I think we had good discussion today. I think it's probably good to close out the conversation there.
A
Appreciate
quick one, Josh, if you don't mind. GSOC 2025 is already starting.
Oh my gosh.
It seems like we just finished the last one and wanted to just quickly check. I mean, we don't need to do anything, but I'll put in a proposal on the community. But is that good with all the mentors to go for 2025?
So what are you asking? Sorry.
I mean, are we still, did we have a positive experience and we want to still continue participate in GSOC 2025?
Actually, we have still one student who need to present their presentation on the Kubeflow community call, and she's still finishing. Yeah, so I think Ramesh is great. Let's discuss this next week. I think we need to define like how much time do we have from the community, but it's definitely the positive thing that you've done. We have actually the active on reviewer within different projects, right?
Okay, I'll put it on docket for next week.
Thank you, Ramesh.
Okay. Well, let's close it out there. Thanks everybody for all the effort. And I guess we'll have a meeting next week. And will that be close to, I guess maybe we could have one the week after. Okay. I think that's it for today. I'm going to close out the meeting. Thanks again for your time. See you next week.